Or what if I told you that sleeping just 6 hours a night, or instead of 8, for only 2 weeks straight, makes you perform as badly as someone who hasn't slept at all for 24 hours? And the scariest part? You won't even feel tired. Your brain literally loses the ability to measure how impaired it is. We're not talking about feeling groggy, we're talking legally impaired. The same level as being drunk. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania prove this. People who slept 6 hours a night for 14 days were just as impaired as people who went without sleep entirely for 2 days straight. But here's the twist that makes this so dangerous. The people in that study said they felt fine. They felt totally fine. Day after day after day, as their performance tanked, they kept rating their sleepiness as not that bad. That gap between how you feel and how you actually function, that's the real problem. Hey, welcome back if you're new here. This channel is all about the science behind everyday decisions. Not textbook science, just the real stuff that actually affects your life. Today we're going deep on sleep. Specifically what losing just 2 hours does to your brain, your body, and honestly, your entire life. And look, I know what you're thinking. 6 hours? That's basically a full night for me. And that's exactly why we need to have this conversation. Because most people in the US right now are running on less than 7 hours. Most people think that's just normal. It's not. So let's start at the beginning. What actually happens when you cut your sleep from 8 to 6 hours? On day 1, honestly, not much. You might feel a tiny bit off. Your reaction time slows down just slightly, but nothing dramatic. You go to work, you function, life goes on. But by day 3, 4, 5, things start shifting. Your brain is building up what scientists call sleep debt. Think of it like a credit card. Every night you sleep less than you need, you're charging 2 hours to the card. And like any credit card, the interest compounds. Here's what that debt buys you. Slower thinking, worse memory, shorter temper, more mistakes. And here's the really weird part. Your body starts craving high-calorie food. Like specifically junk food, because your brain is desperately trying to find another energy source since sleep isn't giving it what it needs. There's actual science behind that craving. Sleep deprivation raises your ghrelin levels. That's the hormone that makes you hungry, and drops your leptin levels, the hormone that makes you feel full. So you're hungrier, and you never feel satisfied. That's a terrible combination. Now let's talk about your emotions, because this is where it gets really interesting. When you're sleep deprived, the emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, becomes 60% more reactive. 60%. That means smaller things make you angrier. Smaller disappointments make you sadder. Your emotional filter basically breaks. Think about what that means in real life. You snap at your partner over nothing. You get frustrated at work over small stuff. You send an email you later regret. And here's the cruel part. You don't even connect it to sleep. You think it's just a rough week, but it's your brain running on empty. Now we get to week 2, and this is where the Pennsylvania study data gets genuinely alarming. By day 10, people on 6 hours of sleep had the same reaction time as people who had been awake for 24 hours straight. By day 14, they were matching people who'd been awake for 48 hours. Let's put that in perspective. Being awake for 17 hours straight affects your driving, the same as a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. Being awake for 24 hours is equivalent to 0.10% blood alcohol. That's above the legal driving limit in every US state. You would be arrested for driving that impaired, but people do it every single day after a bad night of sleep. And remember what we said at the beginning? The people in that study genuinely believed they were fine. This is called impaired metacognition, which is a fancy way of saying your brain can't accurately measure its own performance when it's sleep deprived, so you don't know how bad you are, and that's terrifying. Let's talk about memory. Here's something most people don't know. Your brain doesn't store memories while you're awake. It stores them while you sleep, specifically during a stage called slow wave sleep, which happens mostly in your last 2 hours of a full 8-hour night. Guess what happens when you cut those last 2 hours? Those memories just don't get filed properly. You studied all night for a test, and you literally remember less than if you'd studied less and slept a full 8 hours. This is why pulling all-nighters is one of the worst study strategies ever. It feels productive. It destroys your recall. Now your immune system. This one's simple but brutal. Studies show that people who sleep less than 6 hours are 4 times more likely to catch a cold than people who sleep 8 hours or more. 4 times. Not a small margin. And it works fast. Just 1 week of bad sleep measurably weakens your immune response. And then there's your heart. People who consistently sleep less than 6 hours have a 48% higher risk of developing or dying from heart disease, and a 15% higher risk of stroke. These aren't minor upticks. These are massive jumps in risk from something as simple as going to bed 2 hours later. I want to talk about something that most sleep videos skip because it sounds too scary. But I think you need to know this. The World Health Organization has classified night shift work, which disrupts sleep, as a probable carcinogen. The same category as lead and car exhaust. Why? Because sleep is when your body runs its cancer-fighting maintenance routine. Your brain has a waste removal system called the glymphatic system. It works like a dishwasher for your brain, cleaning out toxic proteins that build up during the day. The key thing, it almost exclusively activates during deep sleep. Sleeping 6 hours means the dishwasher barely runs. Those toxins, they stay in your brain. Those toxic proteins, one of them is called amyloid beta. It's the same protein that builds up in Alzheimer's disease. This doesn't mean bad sleep causes Alzheimer's directly, but the correlation is strong enough that sleep researchers are now saying chronic sleep deprivation may be one of the most significant lifestyle risk factors for Alzheimer's we've ever identified. Okay, let's switch gears, because I know a lot of you watching this are thinking about productivity. You might even be proud of sleeping less. A lot of high achievers are. There's this badge of honor around working long hours and sleeping little. Elon Musk has talked about working 120-hour weeks. Gary Vee says sleep is for people who don't have ambition. And that mindset, it's costing businesses billions. Rand Corporation, one of the most respected think tanks in the world, calculated that sleep-deprived workers cost the US economy $401 billion every year. That's from absenteeism, errors, accidents, and just generally lower output. You think you're being more productive by sleeping less. The data says you're making yourself less valuable to everything around you. Here's how it plays out mentally. When you're sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles complex thinking, planning, and impulse control, takes a massive hit. You become more impulsive, worse at risk assessment, more likely to take shortcuts, which is exactly the opposite of what high performance requires. What about creativity? Same story. Your best creative ideas, the ones that feel like breakthroughs, happen when your brain makes unexpected connections between different pieces of information. That connection-making process peaks during REM sleep. Cut your sleep, cut your REM, and you cut your creative output. Okay, but here's what everyone wants to ask. Can I just catch up on weekends? The honest answer is, kind of, but not really. You can recover some of the performance deficit, but the cognitive damage, specifically the damage to memory consolidation, you can't fully undo. The Washington State University study showed that even after 3 full recovery nights, people still hadn't fully returned to baseline. Here's one nobody talks about. Sleep deprivation makes you less likable. Literally. There's research showing that tired people are worse at reading social cues, more likely to misread facial expressions as threatening, and other people can instinctively sense something is off, even without knowing why. You become less engaging, less present, less connected. And there's a loop here. Sleep deprivation leads to social isolation. Social isolation leads to worse sleep. They feed each other. UC Berkeley research showed that sleep-deprived people avoided social contact, not because they wanted to, but because socializing felt overwhelming. And that loneliness, it triggered even worse sleep the next night. So let's take a step back and look at the full picture. You sleep 6 hours. Your reaction time drops. Your emotions spike. Your memory weakens. Your immune system takes a hit. Your hunger hormones go haywire. Your heart works harder. Your brain collects toxic waste. Your creativity shrinks. Your relationships suffer. And you think you feel fine. And here's the really scary part about all of this. It compounds. One bad night affects tomorrow. 2 weeks of bad nights affects months of your health. Years of chronic sleep deprivation, which is where a lot of Americans actually are, dramatically reshapes your long-term health outcomes in ways that are genuinely hard to reverse. Who's most at risk here? Students and young adults who treat all-nighters as a study strategy, new parents who accept exhaustion as a fact of life, shift workers who fight their circadian rhythm every single night, and high-achieving professionals who wear busyness like a badge. These groups are suffering the most damage, and talking about it the least. And I want to address the caffeine question because I know you're thinking it. Yes, caffeine masks sleepiness. It blocks adenosine, the chemical that makes you feel tired. But here's the important distinction. Caffeine blocks the feeling of being tired. It does not restore the brain functions that sleep deprivation has degraded. The performance hits are still happening. You just can't feel them. And here's a bonus fact that blew my mind. Combining even moderate alcohol with sleep debt makes both dramatically worse. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep. So even if you feel like you slept, you didn't get the quality cycles your brain needs. Having 2 drinks after a week of poor sleep is almost like having 4 or 5 drinks on good sleep. Your body is just less equipped to handle it. Let's flip this. What happens when you actually sleep a full 8 hours consistently for 2 weeks? Your reaction time normalizes. Your emotional regulation returns. Your memory consolidation improves dramatically. Your immune system strengthens. People who got proper sleep reported better moods, better relationships, and this is the kicker, they actually got more done in their waking hours, not less. Now, can some people truly function on 6 hours? Yes. Genuinely. There's a gene called ADRB1 that allows certain people to sleep less and suffer fewer consequences. But here's the statistical reality. Scientists estimate this gene exists in roughly 1-3% of the population. So the chance that you're one of those people? Very, very small. There's a concept researchers call sleep machismo, the cultural trend where bragging about low sleep is a status signal. And this is actively dangerous, because when we normalize sleeping less, we create social pressure for everyone to do the same. It's like normalizing smoking at the office. The damage is invisible until it isn't. Let's talk about kids for a second, because if sleep debt is damaging for adults, for children and teenagers, it's even worse. Their brains are literally still developing. The prefrontal cortex doesn't fully form until age 25. Sleep is the primary building material for that development. Teenagers especially are biologically wired to fall asleep later. But school starts early anyway. It's a structural disaster. When schools in Seattle pushed their start time from 7:50 a.m. to 8:45 a.m., just 1 hour later, student grades improved. Tardiness dropped. Mental health scores went up. Attendance improved. All from 1 hour. That's how powerful sleep timing is. And yet, most US schools still start before 8 a.m. I want to spend a minute on mental health because it's huge. Sleep deprivation is one of the most reliable ways to trigger depression and anxiety symptoms, even in people with no prior history. In fact, insomnia is now considered both a symptom and a cause of depression. They're so intertwined that treating one often helps the other. Here's the biological mechanism. Sleep deprivation raises cortisol, your stress hormone. High cortisol makes it harder to fall asleep, which leads to more sleep deprivation, which raises cortisol more. It's a physiological stress spiral, and once you're in it, breaking out takes deliberate effort. Your body isn't broken. It's just trapped in a loop. Alright, you came here for science and you got it. But let's not end on doom, because the good news is your body really wants to sleep well. It's designed for it. And most of what gets in the way are habits, not biology. So let's talk about what the science actually says works. Number 1, consistency matters more than duration. Going to bed at the same time every night, even on weekends, is more important than trying to sleep in. Your circadian rhythm is a biological clock that runs on pattern. Disrupt the pattern, like staying up until 2 a.m. on Friday and sleeping in until noon. And you give yourself what researchers call social jet lag. Number 2, temperature. Your body needs to drop its core temperature by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. That's why you naturally feel sleepy when it's slightly cool, and why hot rooms destroy sleep quality. The sweet spot for most people is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Too warm, and your body fights sleep all night. Number 3, light. Specifically blue light, which is emitted by your phone, your laptop, your TV. Blue light suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin being the hormone that signals it's time to sleep. Using screens an hour before bed cuts melatonin by up to 50%. That's not a small deal. That's half your sleep signal being blocked. Number 4, caffeine timing. This one surprises most people. Caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 7 hours in most adults, which means that coffee you had at 2 p.m., half of it is still in your system at 9 p.m. A quarter of it is still there at 2 a.m. You're not just disrupting sleep. You're actively preventing deep sleep cycles even when you don't feel caffeinated. Number 5, the wind-down window. Your brain doesn't switch off instantly like a light. It needs a transition period, usually 30 to 60 minutes, where it gradually decelerates. The problem is, most people go from full-screen stimulation to lying in the dark, wondering why they can't sleep. That's like flooring the gas pedal and then expecting to stop immediately. So what does a good wind-down actually look like? Dim your lights an hour before bed. Put screens away. Or use a blue light filter if you can't. Do something low stimulation. Read, stretch, journal, take a warm bath. The bath one is especially science-backed. A warm bath raises your body surface temperature. And when you get out, your core temperature drops rapidly, which triggers sleepiness. Exercise helps sleep significantly, but timing matters. Morning or afternoon exercise is great. It deepens your slow-wave sleep, reduces the time it takes to fall asleep, and lowers anxiety. But vigorous exercise within 2 hours of bedtime can actually keep you awake because it raises your core temperature and cortisol levels. Move, but move early. We already talked about alcohol's effect on REM sleep. But let's get practical. Alcohol might help you fall asleep faster, but it fragments the second half of your night. You wake up more often in the early hours. You skip the deep cycles. You wake up feeling unrested even after a full night. If you drink, ending alcohol intake at least 3 hours before bed makes a real measurable difference. Here's the reframe I want to leave you with. We've built a culture where busyness is the status symbol, where sleeping less means you care more. But what if we got that completely backwards? Matthew Walker, one of the world's leading sleep scientists, says sleep is the greatest legal performance-enhancing drug most people are neglecting. It's free, it's accessible to almost everyone, and we keep choosing not to use it. Protecting your sleep isn't weakness, it isn't laziness. It's one of the most high-performance decisions you can make. The most effective athletes, executives, and creatives in the world, Roger Federer, LeBron James, Jeff Bezos, all publicly talk about prioritizing 8 to 10 hours. They didn't get to the top by sleeping less. They got there sleeping more. If you're currently sleeping 6 hours and you bump that to 7, just 1 hour, you will notice real measurable changes within days. Better mood, sharper thinking, fewer food cravings, less impulsive reactions, more energy without caffeine. The return on investment of 1 extra hour of sleep is probably the highest ROI of anything you can do for your health. And zoom out for a second. This isn't just personal. A population that is chronically sleep deprived makes worse medical decisions, worse political decisions, worse economic decisions. Pilots, surgeons, truck drivers, first responders, all operating impaired because we built a world that doesn't respect sleep. The individual cost is high. The collective cost is enormous. So here's what I want you to do. Tonight, just tonight, pick a bedtime that's 1 hour earlier than usual. No screens for the last 30 minutes. Cool your room down a little. That's it. One night, see how you feel tomorrow. And if you feel better, keep going. Build the habit slowly. Let the evidence change you. If this video made you think differently about something you do every single day, that's what this channel is about. We cover the hidden cause and effect behind everyday habits, health, money, society. Big ideas made simple. If that sounds like your thing, subscribe and hit the notification bell because these videos go deep and they come out regularly. And the last thing I'll say, you can't out-hustle biology. You can fight your body's need for sleep, sure, but it will always eventually collect what it's owed. Sleep isn't the enemy of productivity. Sleep is the engine of it. Good night. Seriously, get some sleep.